Treasure hunters. They scour the ocean floor in search of shipwrecks and lost riches.
Gold swivel stick.
Great, man, great. Good hole.
I found this.
The waters off Key West, Florida are littered with wrecks, and some still conceal a king's ransom in gold and jewels waiting to be found. It's the ultimate adventure, calling people from all walks of life. But treasure hunting is a risky business. So to bring back the mother lode, they'll have to go deep.
Today's the day!
We live on a water world. Water in the form of oceans, lakes, and rivers covers nearly 3/4 of the Earth's surface. The ocean floor is a vast expanse, covering an area 3 times greater than all the land on the planet combined. Over the past 4 millennia, it has been dotted by shipwrecks. Thousands are lost in the deep, far beyond our reach. But a few have come to rest in the shallows, within our grasp. Key West, Florida. One in a chain of some 1,700 islands off the state's southern tip. The waters here are a popular destination for sports fishermen, sightseers, and thrill seekers alike. They're also the final resting place of hundreds of shipwrecks, attracting thousands of divers each year, eager to swim and explore their skeletal hulls. Most are satisfied with a fleeting glimpse of the past. Others, however, have something a little more hands-on in mind. Treasure hunters. This is the J.B. Magruder, one of 3 dive boats owned and operated by Mel Fisher's Treasures, a Key West-based company that has been scouring these waters for over 40 years.
How far out did you get? 35? 35?
They're searching the wreck sites of the Nuestra Senora de Atocha and the Santa Margarita, Spanish galleons that sank here in a hurricane in 1622, killing hundreds, and reported to have taken with them treasures beyond imagination. It's a familiar stretch of seabed for the Fisher Company. They've been diving the area for decades because it has a history of yielding big returns. In the 1960s, Mel Fisher, a diving entrepreneur turned treasure hunter, became obsessed with finding the wreck of the Atocha and its lost wealth.
Mel looked for the Atocha for 16 years and didn't actually find it till 1985. But he started looking for the Atocha solely in 1969. So for 16 years, he looked for that one wreck. I'm Sean Fisher. I'm acting director of Mel Fisher's Treasures here in Key West, and I am Mel Fisher's grandson. Every day, he said today's the day, you know. No matter how crazy everybody thought he was, and no matter how long it had been since he'd found the last piece of treasure, he knew that that next hole was going to be the hole where we'd find the mother lode. Eventually, on July 20th, 1985, today was the day, and we found that pile.
Among the treasure recovered that day, nearly 200 pounds of gold bars and discs, over 300 emeralds, 114,000 loose silver coins, and more than 30 tons of silver bars. The entire list filled a 2,500-page inventory. Finding the mother lode made Mel Fisher a household name in Key West. Newspapers proclaimed him the world's greatest treasure hunter. Then 63 years old, Fisher could have retired 1,000 times over. But something compelled him to continue the search. A colleague of Fisher's, Dr. Eugene Lyon, located the Atocha ship's manifest at the Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain, and studied it. Lyon determined the mother lode was only part of the Atocha treasure. There was still a king's ransom somewhere out there, waiting to be found. Fisher dubbed this the other mother.
There's an incredible amount of treasure left to find. You know, hundreds of silver bars that were listed on the manifest that we know were out there and on the ship that are missing, and almost 100,000 more silver coins. My name's Gary Randolph. I'm the Vice President and Director of Operations for Mel Fisher's Treasures. There's, for example, 10 more bronze cannons like the one in the museum. We've found 10 to date, and there's still another 10 missing. So there's a substantial part of the ship that we're still looking for that's out there.
Mel Fisher died in 1998. He never found the other mother, but his success spawned an entire treasure hunting industry on Key West, drawing thousands to the island in search of their own dream find.
Mel, beyond finding the mother lode, he allowed hundreds, if not thousands, of people to share in this search and the excitement of the treasure hunting.
A decade after Fisher's death, this influx of would-be treasure hunters continues unabated. People from every walk of life arriving ready for adventure.
My name is Gary Hepburn. I'm a regular family guy who's turned treasure hunter for a week.
Gary is a partner in an insurance company in Ontario, Canada. He's a husband and father of 2. And as of today, he's a treasure hunter.
I wouldn't say I've had a lot of great adventures. I've had some fun, but no, this is probably my first big adventure.
He's come to Key West to join Mel Fisher's company in search of sunken treasure. Gary may seem like an unlikely candidate, but he's in fact the typical modern-day treasure hunter. Just an everyday guy, ready and willing to learn the trade.
Hi,
Hey,
Sean.
Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm doing real well. How you doing?
I'm great, I'm great. To be a good treasure hunter, you know, the most important thing is persistence. If you don't believe in your heart and your soul that that next hole is the hole, then there's no reason for you to be out there treasure hunting.
Mel Fisher's Treasures is funded by backers like Gary, who invest a minimum of $10,000 to join the hunt and share in the treasure proceeds at the end of the year.
We're a privately funded company, supported solely by investors, and you know, they play a big role in what we do. Not only do they provide the financing, but they kind of provide the spirit, you know. It's an adventure for these guys. You know, a lot of them are divers, and they get to come out and help us find the treasure. And you know, treasure hunting, as exciting as it is when you're finding something, it's just as monotonous when you're not. So to get the fresh blood out there and get that fresh excitement out there to help us when we're looking for it is really, you know, just a great help.
I don't believe that this investment is any more than I would have made for a golf vacation to some far-off land, a ski vacation. This investment has created an adventure that is completely different than all others. And I guess if it wasn't Mel Fisher, it'd be Walt Disney. The Etosha, the story has always been, I guess, a little bit a part of my life. I first found out about it in National Geographic, and I followed a bit of the exploits of Mel Fisher and his group, and always wanted to see what that was all about.
The Mel Fisher Museum displays many of the artifacts the company has recovered over the years. It's Gary's last stop before setting out on his first treasure hunt.
Absolutely fascinating. But you can see the coins.
So these are coins in there?
Yes, welded in there. Actually, a small animal bone.
I bought a coin that came off the Etosha in 1985, and it came up in the 6th treasure chest that was brought up. To think that it's been on the bottom of the ocean for over, well, close to 400 years is just phenomenal, and now it's in my possession.
This is an ounce of silver.
It's about the hunt.
Yeah.
You know, you find stuff, and that's a bonus. And don't get me wrong, finding something down there is incredible. It's the best feeling you'll ever have. But the hunt is what it's all about.
Day 1 of Gary's treasure hunt. He arrives at Key West's Sunset Marina, enthusiastic about the adventure ahead.
Just believing that somewhere underneath that boat, there's a potential to find some treasure. It's phenomenally exciting.
From the Sunset Marina, Gary will travel by taxi boat out to the J.B. Magruder, currently anchored some 35 miles offshore.
I think Gary Hepburn is typical of the investor we have today. He's an adventurous guy, wanting to do something different, very family-oriented. You know, that's the type of people we seem to attract and enjoy to have in the operation and be a part of it.
With the Florida Keys disappearing behind him, Gary Hepburn is now looking out over the same waters that claimed the Etosha and her sister ship, the Santa Margarita, nearly 400 years ago. The two were part of a 28-ship convoy that left Havana on September 4th, 1622. bound for Spain and carrying back riches plundered from its colonies in the New World. The Etosha was the convoy's appointed treasure ship. Among its cargo, over 100 gold bars, 180,000 silver coins, and some 24 tons of silver bullion. Much of this silver had been extracted from Peruvian mines through forced labor or received as payment for delivery of African slaves. Sailing in large numbers afforded the Spanish fleet greater protection against pirates and Dutch privateers prowling the area. A day after leaving Havana, the convoy was caught by a hurricane in the Florida Straits. For days, the Spanish fleet fought heavy seas. In the end, 20 ships managed to escape. The remaining 8 would never emerge from the storm. Among them were the Etosha and her sister ship, the Santa Margarita. On September 6th, the Etosha ran head-on into a reef, punching large holes in the ship's bow. It quickly sank in only 50 feet of water, killing 255 people sheltering below deck. Only 5 survived, having lashed themselves to the ship's mizzen, which remained above the waves. Not far away, the Santa Margarita ran aground in the shallows and broke apart, killing 143 of her 211 passengers. 6 weeks later, a Spanish salvage party was preparing to depart on an expedition to the Etosha when another hurricane all but destroyed the rest of the Etosha's hull. By the time the Spanish arrived, the wreck of the Etosha and that of the Santa Margarita had vanished.
A lot of people think of a shipwreck, and you know, it sinks and it goes to the bottom and it sits right there. Well, this wreck was a whole lot different. It's you know, it's spread over 10 linear miles of ocean bottom.
Over the centuries, a constant succession of hurricanes would scatter both ships' remains and their cargoes across a wide area. The Etosha's debris chain, running west from the reef where it sank, crisscrossed by that of the Santa Margarita. Both debris chains revealed through the dogged perseverance of Mel Fisher and his family. It was at this point on the Etosha chain, 35 miles west of Key West, that the mother lode was discovered in 1985. Work on the wreck of the Santa Margarita has also brought the Fishers great success.
The Margarita was the sister ship of the Etosha. They were both part of the Tierra Firme fleet, which sank in the hurricane in 1622. We found 8 gold chains, 7 of which were money chains. They all seem to be about 22 carats. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. You know, just the tip of the iceberg of the amount of gold chain we found on the Etosha and Margarita.
Today, the Blue Water Rose, a dive boat working under contract with the Fishers, continues the hunt for the remainder of the Santa Margarita treasure. Northwest of the Blue Water Rose, Gary Hepburn's taxi boat has arrived at the J.B. Magruder. It's currently anchored over the quicksands, a 30-square-mile expanse of rolling underwater sand dunes at the extreme northwest end of the Etosha's debris chain. Here, Gary and a small group of other investors will make their first dive.
When I first considered this adventure, I knew that it would be more than just coming down here and searching for treasure. I had no idea that I would have an opportunity to dive on this boat.
Once aboard, Gary is greeted by the Magruder's captain.
Thanking you for allowing us to come aboard. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
Yep, looking forward to treasure today.
Yeah, that'd be super, wouldn't it?
My name is Andy Matrosi, and I'm the captain of the salvage vessel J.B. Magruder.
Andy will be overseeing Gary's dive. He's a veteran with Mel Fisher's treasures and was one of 2 divers who found the Etosha mother lode in 1985.
You'll see bedrock, and you'll see the sides of the hull. A couple days before we found what we call the mother lode, we were digging holes and finding silver coins, thousands of them. Copper ingots, silver spoons and forks, and lots of ballast stones. On July 20th, when it was my turn to go in the water, with diver Greg Wareham. Just before we jumped in, I said, look, Greg, I'd like to do something. I want to swim to the southeast because I believe the material was coming from the southeast. And let's just swim out there for 100 feet or so, see what we see. So we did. We hit the water. Just before we got to the bottom, you could see hundreds of silver coins, silver plates laying all over this area we just had excavated. We didn't touch any of it. Went to the side of the hole, got my compass, and I went southeast. We spread out just a little bit from each other so we could see farther. We had about 20 foot of visibility that day. We might have swam 70, 80, 90 feet. I was just seeing just flat, ripply sand. And then I felt the tap on my shoulder. And it wasn't a gentle tap, it was very pronounced. And I turned and I looked at Greg, and his eyes were sticking out of his mask. And I said, "Show me what you just saw." And we swam away, and I could see he was like looking around, and so I swam ahead of him. And then all of a sudden what I saw was a wall of silver bars and chest of silver coins and timbers underneath all of that. And it was what we called the mother lode.
On a tour of the boat, crew member Chris Clancy gives Gary his first look at the ever-evolving map of the Etosha debris chain.
Items that we found, the different colors correspond to a different artifact. The orange is for musket balls, the purple is for silver coins, the pink is for encrusted objects, which could be tools or pieces of the ship. We're just not exactly sure what they are until they go through the lab and are cleaned up a little bit. Blue is for spikes, light blue for pottery, and red for ballast stones. Yellow is for gold.
Captain Andy Matrosi has recently found musket balls, ballast rocks, and carpenter tools in this area. He thinks there might be treasure here as well. Following the orientation tour, Gary and his fellow treasure hunters receive a safety briefing. Andy reminds them the upcoming dive is not to be taken lightly.
If by chance somebody gets lost, you're out there, just surface, and we will get you in a couple minutes.
The safety briefing complete, Gary prepares for his first treasure hunt and for just his second dive ever.
Part of this adventure meant that very quickly I had to learn how to dive. There was a lot of apprehension at the beginning. I wasn't sure that I could do it, but I knew I had to do it. I had to do it to face a few of my fears and to enable myself to maybe go down and find some treasure.
Gary has much to remember before plunging into the open water. Details and procedures that could mean the difference between a day of adventure and tragedy. Gary and his fellow divers have suited up and are waiting for the go-ahead to take to the water.
I kind of feel like I have everybody as much a chance as anybody else of finding something.
But first, the crew of the Magruder must do a little digging. And where an archaeologist on land might use a shovel or a trowel to remove earth, here at sea, the crew engaged the Magruder's two mailboxes, large metal hoods attached to the rear of the vessel. Invented by Mel Fisher himself, they will redirect a blast from the boat's propellers to clear a large hole in the sand below that may conceal treasure. The crew drops a series of anchors to make sure the boat remains stationary. Then, using the anchor lines, they winch the boat over to the precise area they want to excavate. The mailboxes are then lowered into the water. A diver enters the water to place large metal pins that will hold the mailboxes in place. The blast from the boat's propellers is deflected by the mailboxes, shooting down to the sea floor, where it displaces the sand on the bottom. Through 165 feet of water, they can create a hole some 80 feet deep. The propeller blast creates a blizzard of sand that can take up to 10 minutes to dissipate. Waiting aboard the JB Magruder, Gary is excited at the prospect of his first treasure dive.
It'd be really cool to find some coins or a gold necklace would be wonderful.
Dive member Sean Coles preps Gary for the upcoming dive.
What's going to happen is we're going to do a giant stride right off the deck, right? And attached to the bottom of the ladder, there's a line, and the line goes all the way to the bottom. And there's a lead weight. That'll put us right on the top of a berm. The guys just blew a hole. They blew a hole, it's about 30 foot across. We'll go right down, we'll just go, as I said, on our knees, right at the top of the berm. We'll check each other out. Once we're good, then we'll just go down the berm, and we'll start swimming counterclockwise around the hole or the circle that has been made. and I like to go counterclockwise because usually the guys that are metal detecting are going clockwise. So in doing that, we're kind of going in opposite directions. So when we see them coming, we can kind of get out of the way and not break their stride. And that's how we'll do it. That's
great.
Sean Fisher, Mel Fisher's grandson and director of the company, has arrived to personally lead today's dive. He gives Gary and his fellow treasure hunters a few final words of advice.
The current is kicking, so go straight to the bottom of the hole. Get a lot of protection from that hole. Once we get down there, we'll get our bearings, and then we'll just start searching the hole. The bottom will all be bedrock. You'll find treasure in the solution hole, so it's a great place to start looking. The big gold bars are just gonna be sitting there. So they look just as pretty as the ones we saw at top. So I guess let's go. Let's go find some gold.
Okay.
Today's the day.
Everything appears to be working, which is a good thing. To be on the deck of one of Mel Fisher's salvage boats is a dream come true. The opportunity to dive on it and maybe find something would be phenomenal.
Once in the water, Gary is at first hesitant. He has only recently learned to dive, and it takes him a few moments to find his bearings in the open sea. He makes his way to the ladder, leading to the drop line. It's the dive team's path down into the hole blown by the mailboxes and onto the treasure field. At the bottom of the hole, there is no Etosha wreckage to be seen. Centuries of hurricanes have all but pulverized the ship's hull. It's a desert of rock, sand, and broken shells. Gary chooses a spot and begins to employ the tried and tested techniques of the professional treasure hunter. He gently wafts sand with his bare hands, hoping to uncover artifacts or treasure hidden below the surface. It's a painstaking process. Another technique is to keep an eye out for solution holes, cracks in the bedrock into which small artifacts or bits of treasure may have fallen. One member of the dive team employs an underwater metal detector, hoping for a reading from just below the sandy seafloor. A typical treasure hunt dive lasts an average of 30 minutes, or until the team leader is satisfied there is nothing to be found in the area. Topside, the crew is always left wondering what the dive team might return with from the Etosha debris field.
The biggest prize in my mind is on the manifest, there's still 10 bronze cannons that are out there somewhere. For each cannon we find, there's a $10,000 bonus associated with it for the diver that would find it. My name is Bill Reichert. I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and I'm a diver here on the boat. I'm the newest member of the crew. I've only been here for about 3 months now. I was here back in the 80s when we found the mother lode. And then I went home to Pennsylvania for quite a while, and I just started back up here again. The whole time I've been here, when I started in 1983, and we found the big pile, and even now today, the money's great, the treasure's great, but for me, absolutely, the treasure is the hunt right here, doing what we're doing, day in and day out. You know, I wouldn't trade this for anything right now.
Back on the treasure field, the search continues with no success. Just as Sean is about to signal the team to the surface, a metal object is detected in the sand. A tug reveals the netting from a lobster trap. It's a common false alarm for treasure hunters here in the Florida Strait. The team's time is up, and they make their way back to the JB Magruder.
How was it down there? Great, man, great. Good hole. No treasure. Next hole.
Oh, that was great. That was no treasure. Sorry, guys. I did the best I could. I found this. I was picking up all kinds of stuff because I wasn't sure what was what, right? But I don't know how they recognize anything.
You can be looking and you'll find something, and you'll move the boat 10 feet over and look 10 feet over, and there's nothing. And you move the boat another 10 feet, nothing. And you move it 5 feet, and then you find something. So it's very frustrating.
Playing detective when all the players are dead from 400 years ago, trying to figure it all out, I like that, you know. Even when we're not finding anything, the way I look at it is, and I write in my logbook, we've eliminated another section of the bottom of the ocean. So we did find out something today.
But those times that, you know, that it is gold or it is not anything from a shipwreck, you know, that's what keeps you coming back. It's like golf.
Yeah.
You get one good swing in 18 holes, but that's what keeps you coming back. So, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, these guys that we're with, these divers, are so optimistic, and they're so into it. You can't help it. You can't help but feel like your next dive you're going to find something. And yeah, I do think that we will find something.
It's the kind of passion only treasure can inspire. But in the past, this passion also played itself out in a series of heated legal battles over the Fisher's claim to the Etosha and its riches. As far back as his first hunt for the Etosha in 1969, Mel Fisher was obliged by law to hand over 25% of any treasure found off the Florida Keys to the Florida state government. Fisher filed suit in 1979, and for the next 3 years, fought a series of legal battles to win back the seized treasure. The case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1983, the court ruled in favor of Mel Fisher, granting him sole salvage rights to the Etosha and its sister ship, the Santa Margarita.
We went through a 3-year battle through the federal court system, 111 court cases fighting the state and the federal governments all the way to the Supreme Court. And we beat the federal and state government in the Supreme Court, and were awarded the rights to all the treasure that we have. But yeah, we definitely had to fight, and you know, winning that battle against the government was probably one of the best days of our lives.
The crew of the JB Magruder prepare for the next dive, guiding the boat's anchor lines as it winches its way to the next site.
Right now we're moving the boat using the winches and the anchor lines that we've run out in either direction to excavate a different area with our mailboxes off the back.
My name's Chris Clancy. I came down here about 4 years ago. He used to tell tourists about the company because it's an interesting story, and it's real interesting to tell the adventure of Mel Fisher. So I decided that I wanted to come and work for the company as well.
The crew that I have at this moment, that I've had for a while, they're excellent. They all have good attitudes. They're into the work. The attitude is very important in this because we live out here half the year and the rest of the time in Key West, and some of the guys live on the boat. So morale is very good with these guys.
My name is William Bird. I'm the first mate on the boat. I did concrete work for 20 years, and just got fed up with living in Los Angeles, 4 hours of work every day, driving, and found out about this job and been here almost 3 years, and I'm motivated because I don't want to go back doing that construction work. But more than anything, even when I go out and find pottery, I'm the first one to touch that for 400 years. I mean, like a childhood dream come true. You know, you get to find treasure and dive and get paid. Wait a minute, you know, great.
It's hard work on the deck of the Magruder, and with the boat searching an average of 5 holes a day, things can get monotonous. But there is incentive to stay motivated, because in addition to their salary, each member of the crew is entitled to a percentage of the company proceeds at the end of the year.
Because of the amount of money that some people put on the wreck, the Etosha, the hundreds of millions of dollars, it's been assumed that myself and other divers are very wealthy, and that's false. We get a weekly paycheck, and once a year we get some treasure, depending on what your percentage is, how long you've worked here, and what your position is determines your personal percentage. I've received a lot of treasure over the years, and a real lot, in the year of 1985 because we found so much. Years we don't find anything, there's nothing to divide. So I've, over the years, sold some treasure here and there, and I never took this job thinking I was going to get rich. I never even really enters my mind. I do this work because I love being underwater and I love history. And I'm being paid to go underwater and look for history.
The Magruder's mailboxes have just been raised after blasting another hole in the sand dunes on the seafloor. They are fastened in place with metal pins, and after confirmation from Andy that they are secure, the okay is given for Gary Hepburn's next treasure dive. This time, Andy will be leading the dive. The professionals take to the water, followed by Gary and his fellow amateurs. The team descends into the freshly excavated hole. For Gary, the rush of the first dive has been replaced by a sense of awe.
As important as the treasure may be, the story is even probably more important. The sailing of the Etosha from Peru, the sinking of the Etosha and the Margarita in a huge hurricane in 1622, the amount of treasure that's at the bottom of that water, the treasure trail, it's all part of it, and it's, I guess at this time of my life, it's just a dream come true.
Crew member Ryan Stapool employs the underwater metal detector. He gets a high reading over an outcropping of jagged bedrock. It's riddled with cracks called solution holes by treasure hunters that over the centuries may have trapped small artifacts like coins. Gary and crew member Bill Burt feel down into the solution holes. They both retrieve small metal objects. Musket balls, likely from an ammunition chest aboard the Etosha. They may not be treasure, but they're still historically valuable.
Boys, well done.
Back on deck, Gary is thrilled with his find.
Look at the size of that one.
Yeah, that's a good 50 caliber one. That one hurt.
So this is what they are, boys. That's what they look like. I never really pictured myself as a treasure hunter, but I'd like to believe at this point that I am not only a treasure hunter, but a treasure finder.
Found your 4 musket balls, huh?
Yeah, this is fantastic. That was great. So I give these now to you.
Yep, and he's got your name written on the bag. So you'll see him again in May in your division.
The investor is allowed to keep the first artifact that he finds up to a certain level, of course. I think it's really important. I think it gives each one of the investors a touch of the past.
But not everyone agrees that the removal of objects from a wreck like the Etosha is a good idea. There are some in the archaeological community who believe that treasure hunting is no different than looting.
A lot of the opponents of treasure hunting were, continued to focus on Mel Fisher, and that was always because he had been the most successful. He was in the news more than anybody else by virtue of actually having found Etosha and some of these other wrecks and bringing up a lot of silver and gold and emeralds, et cetera, et cetera. And, if they don't do it right, archaeologically or whatever, then, they can be called to task.
Some archaeologists feel that wrecks like the Etosha should only be excavated by government-approved antiquities specialists, overseen by a college or university, or that they should be left alone entirely. Sean Fisher not only rejects these arguments, but feels the company has in fact done a great deal to advance the science of underwater archaeology.
There are purist archaeologists who feel that we should leave wrecks like the Etosha on the bottom to be preserved in situ by the ocean. And I completely disagree. Archaeology, in my opinion, is bringing this history to the public and giving them an opportunity to learn from it, to see it, to enjoy it. By us bringing up the artifacts from the Etosha and putting the very unique artifacts in museums where anybody can see, and every artifact we find is conserved and cleaned and taken care of and with the utmost care, and then put onto a database that can be seen by anybody in the world.
The Mel Fisher Museum is equipped with a lab to preserve artifacts recovered from the wrecks. John Corcoran is one of the museum's conservators.
Every artifact gets recovered, doesn't matter how small it is, doesn't matter how insignificant some people might find it. We bring it up, we tag it, we photograph it, we weigh it, it goes in a database.
David Moore was one of the first archaeologists to join the Fisher organization.
I've seen, how those folks operate, and there are some very good people involved with, particularly the boat captains and the people that were operating those boats and actually doing the excavation were very, very motivated. They were quite interested in the historical aspects of what we were doing. By and large, they were indeed treasure hunters, but they were willing to work with archaeologists and were willing to take instruction from the archaeologists to learn more about what exactly it was that they were doing. And if anything, I actually had more latitude to do what I wanted to do archaeologically, working with the Fisher organization.
Well, back in the early days of treasure hunting, there wasn't archaeology. We were the pioneers, and we kind of created the archaeology as we went. We've, over the years, pretty much wrote the book. We've kind of had to take it in stride as we go and make the rules of being treasure hunters while making sure that we take care of the archaeological aspects of what we do.
The day's hunt is now over, and Gary boards the taxi boat to return to shore, eager to return tomorrow. He is determined that the Fishers treat the wrecks and their artifacts with the proper respect and care.
I realize there's a body of people that believe treasure hunting is wrong. I don't really agree with their approach to that. I think there is an opportunity, and I do understand the philosophy that they're coming from, but I do think there is an opportunity here, and I think Mel Fisher brings it all to light. And the treasure, I think everybody dreams of treasure, and that's part of my dream.
Day 2 dawns. Gary Hepburn arrives at the Sunset Marina to once again board the taxi boat to the J.B. Magruder. He arrives to find the marina is buzzing with excitement.
Hey, ready to rock and roll, Gary. You want to sign off?
Captain Gary Randolph has just received a report that there may be a major find happening, but the call wasn't from the J.B. Magruder, but from the Blue Water Rose, which is currently searching the wreck of the Etosha sister ship, the Santa Margarita, nearly 4 miles to the east. Captain Gary decides to postpone the return to the Magruder and instead heads directly to the Blue Water Rose to investigate the report. Once again, Gary Hepburn finds himself speeding across the waters off Key West and back into history. On September 6, 1622, the Santa Margarita, like her sister ship, the Etosha, was swept into the reef and ran aground in the shallows beyond, claiming 143 lives. This is known through the account of a survivor, gunnery captain Bernardino de Lugo. Its fate after this is uncertain. When Spanish salvage crews arrived weeks later, the ship had vanished. Like the Etosha, it was presumed the Margarita's hull had been pulverized by centuries of hurricanes. For 350 years, the location of the wreck of the Margarita remained a mystery. That is until the 1970s, when Mel Fisher, in his search for the Etosha, began to find artifacts he suspected were actually from the Margarita. This inspired him to launch an all-out search for the wreck. In 1980, the company discovered a portion of the hull, along with $50 million in gold bars, jewelry, and coins. Mel Fisher's Treasures has been diving the Santa Margarita debris chain ever since. As the taxi boat speeds toward the Blue Water Rose, a call comes over the radio.
They found a chain.
Yeah, they just found a gold chain.
Did they?
You got a trail.
That's what it's looking like.
That's awesome. There's a honey hole there.
Sweet.
Confirmation. The dive team on the Blue Water Rose has struck gold. In only his second day treasure hunting, Gary Hepburn may be witness to a once-in-a-lifetime event, a major treasure find. The odds are astronomical. After the better part of an hour, the Blue Water Rose is at last in view. Once aboard, Gary and the group from the taxi boat learned that the find owed much to sheer luck.
The current caused them to drag anchor, you know, and they were in the spot that they thought was going to be a great spot and real hot. Well, they drug anchor and they couldn't get it to catch, and finally when they did, rather than try and reset anchors, which would have taken them the rest of the day, they just decided to tighten them up and dig a hole right there. And they dug a hole and got down to the bottom, and it was, you know, covered with gold.
The initial haul is astounding. 8 gold chains, 20 gold belt accessories, 7 gold rings, and a gold bar. It's the company's largest single find since Mel Fisher discovered the mother lode in 1985. For Gary Hepburn, it's a dream come true.
To actually stand on the deck and to rub shoulders with the people that are diving and finding the treasure, it meant an awful lot to me, and I really felt like at that point that I was a part of some sort of history.
Sean Fisher himself arrives on the Blue Water Rose to celebrate with the crew.
The most interesting part of that find wasn't the gold, it's this little lead box. Very exciting because you just don't know what's in it.
Boxes like this that we found in the past, I mean, we've opened them up and found emerald crosses worth millions of dollars. We've opened them up and found, you know, hundreds of feet of chain, gold chain inside. As much as you want to just, you know, pop and see what's inside, you can't, you know, you got to do it right. You got to make sure that it's preserved and conserved right and cataloged for, you know, the general public to all be able to enjoy.
The next day at the Sunset Marina, the staff from Mel Fisher's Treasures has gathered to welcome the Blue Water Rose, returning with the treasure from the wreck of the Margarita.
Hey, Sean. Hey, man. How you doing, Keith? Good to see you, man. Hey.
Duncan Mathewson, the company's head archaeologist, is on hand to greet the press.
We found a large assemblage of historic shipwreck artifacts all together. The treasure that we're bringing in today, along with all the artifacts, probably is worth upwards of $1 million. We really don't know yet until we open up the treasure box.
30 minutes. Okay, let's do that. And then when they get... Okay, and they're going to bring all the artifacts and all the gold, and we'll be able to give everybody a good chance to look at them. Sure call. Got the bow. Here they come.
The party moves onto the Blue Water Rose, where the staff gets their first look at the fruits of their labor.
It looks like they did some stuff.
This would be used to reload a weapon. We found a piece of the blade also in the hole. Of course, being iron, it's all shot.
Keith Webb, the owner of the Blue Water Rose, is ecstatic.
That's what I'm talking about. We've been working for 3 years, and today's the day. He's the best mechanic in the whole Keys. 1 month left and I quit. Okay, give it up.
This is what it's all about, you know, finding treasure that's been down there for 400 years. Some poor guy, well, he was a rich guy, wearing all this stuff in the middle of the storm, you know, holding on it and praying to God that he got through it, you know, and really probably just waved him down and took him down to the bottom. So, you know, it's an amazing find. It brings history to us. It's our way of being in touch with the early 1600s, and I tell you, it's just the best feeling in the world. It's days like today that us treasure hunters live for, man. Today's the day.
Treasure! Treasure! Cheers to the Blue Water Rose!
Gold swivel stick.
from.
The party continues long into the night, and they've got good reason to celebrate. Because every member of the Fisher organization will receive a percentage of the Santa Margarita find, including investors like Gary Hepburn, whose vacation in the Florida Keys may have just paid for itself.
The adventure was absolutely unbelievable. And as often as I can get down here and as often as they'll have me, I'll be here.
But as the staff of Mel Fisher's treasures celebrate into the night, one question remains. What is in the lead box? The next day, it's a bleary-eyed group of treasure hunters who arrive at the Mel Fisher Museum for the delivery of the Santa Margarita find and the opening of the box. The recovered treasure has already been bagged and set aside for examination and cataloging, a process that could take years. The mysterious lead box is placed on a viewing table for the opening. Once again, the press are here, and the company has arranged for a live webcam broadcast of the opening. Conservator John Corcoran carefully removes the box from the salt water. Using a lightweight mineral hammer, archaeologist Jim Sinclair gently cracks it open. The contents of the box are obscured by nearly 400 years of sand that has seeped through its cracks. A quick spray and a dip in salt water reveals a strainer filled with pearls. And the celebration begins again. There are over 4,000 in all, with an estimated value of over $1 million.
Well, we got at least $1 million here, so.
It's not too often that gold gets upstaged by something.
It's not just the value of the pearl, it's the historic value. From the Etosha, the most famous shipwreck ever recovered. You put the name Etosha with a pearl and the value just skyrockets. You never find it like this.
Well shaken, John.
Yeah, well, I'm holding $1 million worth of treasure. What do you expect? Once they're out of the oyster and they're exposed to the seawater, they deteriorate rapidly, lose the luster. These pearls were packed in a lead box filled with silt, so they're in pristine condition. I mean, it's amazing. Total luster, like they just went down yesterday.
So this is a huge find.
It's a huge find.
Fantastic. I believe that shipwrecks, as a trigger for education for everyone, it's a real spark. It creates that energy and that excitement and that search. And I think it surrounds itself with the history. And I think people, once they've grabbed a hold of something, continue on with it.
The treasure of the Margarita is Sean Fisher's first major find as the company's director. He was only 7 years old when his grandfather found the Etosha motherlode in 1985. It's the culmination of his life's work. Like his grandfather before him, Sean could easily retire now. But the remaining Etosha treasure keeps him from hanging up his wetsuit.
So that's the big one now. You found the first motherlode.
Yeah, this is the other mother.
Now we're looking for the other mother.
The other mother.
And that's where it's going to be.
Yes, the stern castle portion of the ship, you know, it's where all the wealthy people were quartered, so all their personal belongings, lots of really ornate jewelry, lots of beautiful gold, all the church's taxes were there, lots of neat artifacts. Over 100 guns are still missing, and they were expected to be in the stern castle. The different things you find that tell you the story of what it was like to live in 1622, you know, that's half the fun.
It's been a real history lesson for me.
Yeah,
no question.
Yeah.
For now, the other mother is still out there, somewhere beneath the waves of the Florida Keys. And until it's found, treasure hunters will be chasing it inch by inch, hole by hole, telling themselves,
today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Yeah. Today's the day.